The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the faint scent of buttery pastries at Haven's Nook, a small cafe tucked into the corner of Charleston's historic district. The mid-afternoon lull had settled in, and the cafe's usual hum had dwindled to a peaceful murmur. For Sophia, the shift dragged like a slow-moving tide. She'd been on her feet for hours, every tick of the clock a reminder of the rent due in 2 days and the unpaid electricity bill looming over her. Her manager, Margie, glanced at Sophia from behind the counter with a knowing smile that said, "Hang in there." Sophia adjusted her apron, pulled her auburn hair into a tighter ponytail, and forced herself to focus. The door's bell jingled, pulling Sophia from her daze. A young man entered, tall and composed, his plain white shirt and slacks giving him an effortless elegance. 2 men followed him closely, their watchful eyes scanning the room. Security detail. Sophia stiffened. Charleston wasn't the kind of place for high-profile guests. "Good afternoon," she said, approaching his table in the far corner. Her voice wavered slightly as she asked, "Can I get you started with something?" The young man looked up, and for a moment, Sophia froze. His face was striking yet familiar in a distant way. Then it dawned on her. Barron Trump, the son of the former president. His calm demeanor surprised her, his presence both intimidating and strangely grounding. "I'll have a cappuccino," Barron said politely, his voice warm but reserved, "and one of those scones." "Of course," Sophia replied, scribbling the order. As she turned to prepare his drink, her heart raced. Why? He was just another customer, wasn't he? Minutes later, Sophia placed the cappuccino and scone in front of him. "Here you go," she said, her tone measured. "Thank you," Barron replied, his faint smile carrying a weight she couldn't place. As she walked back to the counter, she felt the unmistakable sense that something about this interaction wasn't ordinary. What Sophia didn't realize was that this quiet encounter was about to send ripples far beyond the walls of Haven's Nook. The steady hiss of the cappuccino machine filled the air as Sophia busied herself behind the counter, stealing glances at the corner table where Barron sat. He wasn't like the other customers. No frantic typing, no phone calls, no distractions. Instead, he stared out the window, watching the world pass by with a kind of quiet intensity that made her wonder what was on his mind. Sophia tried to shake off the curiosity, focusing instead on the tasks at hand. She wiped down the counter, stacked freshly washed plates, and refilled the sugar dispensers. Still, her gaze drifted toward him, her thoughts swirling. Why does he seem so different? She wondered. As the cafe grew quieter, Sophia noticed Barron pulling a pen from his pocket. He leaned over the receipt, writing something quickly and deliberately. His movements were purposeful, almost secretive. Then, with a soft sigh, he folded the paper and tucked it beneath the empty coffee cup. Gathering his phone and coat, he stood, nodding politely toward Sophia as he passed. "Thank you for coming," Sophia called out, her voice soft. Barron paused at the door, his tall frame silhouetted against the afternoon sunlight. He turned slightly and smiled. A brief but genuine gesture. "Have a good day," he said, and with that he stepped outside, the bell jingling softly behind him. For a moment, Sophia stood frozen, the warmth of his smile lingering in her mind. Then she shook herself free and moved to clear his table. The cappuccino cup sat empty, a delicate foam residue clinging to the sides. The plate was wiped clean of crumbs, but it was the folded receipt that caught her attention. Sophia picked it up carefully, her heart skipping as she unfolded the paper. At the bottom of the receipt was a tip, a sum so large it made her breath hitch, 4 digits. Above it, written in neat, steady handwriting, was a simple note. "Your hard work and kindness don't go unnoticed. My family has been where you are. Stay strong. Brighter days are coming." Her hands trembled as she read the words again, her chest tightening with a wave of emotions. Tears blurred her vision, and she stumbled into the chair where Barron had sat, clutching the note as if it might disappear. It wasn't the money. It was the words. The recognition, the empathy. Someone had seen her, truly seen her, and for the first time in months, Sophia felt like she mattered. What she didn't know was that this moment was only the beginning. Sophia remained seated for a moment, the note clutched tightly in her trembling hands. She read it over and over again, the words carving a deep impression on her heart. Her eyes darted to the door where Barron had left, and she wondered if he had any idea of the impact he'd just made. The cafe was quiet, save for the soft hum of the overhead speakers playing a jazzy tune. Sophia's manager, Margie, noticed her sitting at the corner table and approached, concern etched on her face. "You okay, Sophia?" Margie asked gently, her brow furrowing. "What happened?" Sophia hesitated, unsure of how to put her emotions into words. Slowly, she held up the receipt showing Margie the tip and the note. Margie's eyes widened as she read it, and for a moment, she was speechless. "Is this for real?" Margie whispered, her voice tinged with disbelief. Sophia nodded, a shaky laugh escaping her lips. He didn't have to do that. I didn't do anything special." Margie placed a comforting hand on Sophia's shoulder. "Sometimes people see more than we think they do. Maybe he noticed how hard you've been working, how much you've been carrying. This," she gestured to the note, "this is his way of saying he sees you." The weight of Margie's words hit Sophia harder than she expected. She thought of the late nights, the skipped meals, the endless hours spent worrying about rent and bills. She'd hidden her struggles well, or so she thought, but somehow this stranger, Barron Trump, had seen through it all. Word spread quickly among the staff. By the time Sophia returned to the counter, her co-workers were buzzing with excitement. "You served him, right?" One of the baristas, Ella, asked, her eyes wide. "What did he say? What was he like?" Sophia smiled faintly, keeping the details of the note to herself. "He was kind. Polite," she said simply. But the world outside the cafe wasn't as quiet. Unbeknownst to Sophia, someone had snapped a photo of the receipt before she'd tucked it away. By the next morning, the story had gone viral, and Sophia's life was about to change in ways she couldn't have imagined. Sophia's phone buzzed incessantly as sunlight filtered through her apartment window. Groaning, she reached for it, squinting at the screen. Notifications flooded in, texts, calls, social media alerts. Confused, she unlocked her phone to find dozens of messages from friends and coworkers. "Sophia, is this you? You're famous. Check this out. Unbelievable." Her heart raced as she opened one of the links. The headline stared back at her. "Barron Trump's note to a waitress sparks a wave of kindness." Below it was a photo of the receipt, the heartfelt note in Barron's handwriting visible for the world to see. Sophia's hands shook as she scrolled through the article. It recounted her story, a hard-working waitress, an unexpected act of generosity, and a message of hope that resonated with countless readers. Her breath caught. How did this happen? She opened her social media apps, and there it was. Her story, plastered across every platform. Hundreds, maybe thousands of comments poured in. This is what the world needs more of. Barron Trump seems like a genuinely kind soul. I hope the waitress is doing okay. Sophia felt overwhelmed, as if the walls of her tiny apartment were closing in. Her private moment, the one that had felt so personal, so sacred, was now a public spectacle. "Mom?" Sophia called out shakily, stepping into the small living room where her mother was seated. Her mom looked up, coughing softly, the TV remote in her hand. "What's wrong, Sophia?" she asked, her voice hoarse. Sophia hesitated, then held up her phone. "It's everywhere. The note, the tip, everything." Her mom's brow furrowed as she motioned for Sophia to sit beside her. Together, they stared at the television screen as a news segment began playing. The headline flashed across the bottom. "A quiet act of kindness. Barron Trump's note touches millions." Sophia buried her face in her hands, her voice barely a whisper. "I didn't ask for this." Her mom reached out, gently squeezing her shoulder. "Sometimes the good finds us, even when we're not looking for it." "You didn't ask for it, Sophia, but maybe you needed it. Tears filled Sophia's eyes. She wasn't sure if they were from gratitude or sheer panic. The attention felt too big, too overwhelming, and yet deep down she couldn't help but feel the flicker of something else. Hope. But Sophia wasn't ready for the next twist. As she braced herself for the day ahead, she had no idea the cafe would soon become the epicenter of a national conversation. The walk to Haven's Nook felt different that morning. Sophia kept her head down, her phone vibrating in her pocket with notifications she didn't dare check. The quiet streets of Charleston seemed louder somehow, as if the world was holding its breath, waiting for her to arrive. As soon as Sophia stepped through the cafe doors, she felt the weight of every gaze. Her coworkers greeted her with wide smiles, their eyes twinkling with a mix of pride and curiosity. Margie waved her over with an unusually bright expression. "You're the talk of the town, Sophia," Margie said, handing her an apron. "Did you see the news? People are calling in, asking about you," Sophia groaned, tying her apron strings tightly. "I didn't want this, Margie. I just wanted to do my job." Margie gave her a kind smile. "I know, but sometimes stories like this give people hope. And Sophia, hope is something the world needs right now." Before Sophia could respond, the cafe door jingled and a sudden hush fell over the room. A news crew stepped inside, cameras, microphones and all. Sophia froze, gripping the edge of the counter as the reporters approached Margie. "We're here to speak with Sophia. Is she available?" one of them asked, his voice polite but firm. Sophia's stomach churned. She ducked behind the counter, her heart pounding. Ella, the barista, leaned in and whispered, "They're here for you. What are you going to do?" "I don't know," Sophia muttered, shaking her head. This wasn't supposed to happen. Before she could gather her thoughts, Margie approached her. "Sophia, they're waiting outside. You don't have to talk to them, but maybe you should think about it." Sophia hesitated. The idea of speaking to the media made her skin crawl, but Margie's words lingered in her mind. Hope. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Customers streamed into the cafe, some leaving kind notes on napkins, others tipping generously. A few whispered words of encouragement as Sophia refilled coffee cups and cleared tables. By the time her shift ended, Sophia felt like she'd been holding her breath all day. She slipped out the back door, avoiding the reporters still camped outside. The quiet alley was a welcome relief, but as she leaned against the brick wall, her phone buzzed again. A message from Margie lit up her screen. "Call me if you change your mind. They want you on the morning show." Sophia stared at the message, torn. She wanted to retreat, to hide from the chaos. But deep down, she knew this wasn't just about her anymore. Barron's note had started something bigger than either of them. The world was listening, and maybe, just maybe, she had something worth saying. Sophia spent the night tossing and turning, her mind racing with questions. Could she really face the cameras? Did she have anything meaningful to say? The note Barron left had felt like a deeply personal moment, something she'd carried in her heart like a fragile treasure. How could she put that into words for the world to hear? Morning came too quickly, and with it, a decision she couldn't avoid. Her phone buzzed. Another text from Margie. "They need an answer today. It's your story, Sophia. Tell it your way." Taking a deep breath, Sophia replied, "Tell them I'll do it." The bright lights of the studio were overwhelming. Sophia sat on a soft beige couch, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Across from her was the morning show host, a polished woman with a warm smile that almost put Sophia at ease. "Sophia," the host began, leaning forward slightly, "you've had quite the week. Your story has touched millions. Tell us, how did it feel when you first read Barron Trump's note?" Sophia's throat tightened, but she forced herself to speak. Honestly, it was overwhelming. It wasn't about the money, though that was generous beyond words. It was the message he wrote. It reminded me that someone saw me, not just as a waitress, but as a person trying her best to keep going. The host nodded empathetically. The note read, Your hard work and kindness don't go unnoticed. My family has been where you are. Stay strong. Brighter days are coming." "What do you think he meant by that?" Sophia hesitated, her voice soft but steady. "I think he meant that no matter who you are, everyone struggles. Even someone like Barron Trump has experienced hard times. And sometimes, when you're at your lowest, just knowing that someone else understands can make all the difference." The studio fell quiet, the weight of her words settling over the room. The host smiled warmly. "That's a powerful message, Sophia. If Barron is watching, is there anything you'd like to say to him?" Sophia blinked back tears and smiled faintly. "Thank you. Not for the money, but for seeing me, for reminding me to hold on to hope. You made more of a difference than you know." When the interview aired, Sophia didn't check her phone. She went back to Haven's Nook the next day, tying her apron like it was any other shift. But it wasn't. Customers greeted her with smiles, leaving kind words scrawled on napkins, tipping a little more generously, and most importantly, treating her with warmth and respect. Sophia didn't feel famous. She felt seen. And in the quiet moments between orders, she found herself thinking of Barron's words again. Brighter days are coming. For the first time in a long time, she believed them. The world quieted in the days following Sophia's interview. The initial whirlwind of attention began to settle, and for the first time she felt like she could breathe again. But something had shifted, not just in how others saw her, but in how she saw herself. At the cafe, there was a new energy. Customers who had seen her story smiled warmly, often leaving behind notes of their own. Some shared pieces of their struggles, thanking her for reminding them that kindness still mattered. Each interaction became a moment of connection, a small ripple of the hope Barron's note had given her. Sophia kept the note with her at all times, folded neatly in her wallet. It wasn't just a reminder of that life-changing day. It was a promise she'd made to herself, to keep going, to stay kind, to believe in brighter days. One afternoon, the cafe bell jingled, and Sophia looked up instinctively. For a moment, her heart stopped. Barron Trump stood in the doorway, his calm presence filling the room like it had before. He was alone this time, dressed simply, his demeanor as unassuming as ever. Sophia froze as he approached the counter, a faint smile on his face. "Hi," he said softly. "I wasn't sure if you'd want to see me again." "Barron," Sophia managed, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't even know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," he replied. "I saw the interview. You said it all. I just wanted to make sure you were okay." Sophia felt tears welling up but blinked them away, smiling. "I am, thanks to you." Barron nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I didn't do it for the attention. I know what it's like to feel invisible. I hoped it might help." "It did," Sophia said, her voice steady now. "And not just for me. You reminded people that kindness matters, that small gestures can make a big difference." Barron's smile widened slightly. "That's good to hear." They spoke briefly, their conversation simple but heartfelt. As Barron left the cafe once more, Sophia watched him go, her chest lighter than it had been in months. That night, as Sophia walked home under the golden glow of streetlights, she reflected on the strange and wonderful series of events that had unfolded. The world hadn't changed overnight, but she had. Her struggles weren't over, but for the first time, they felt manageable. Brighter days were coming. She could feel it. And in her heart, she carried not just Barron's words, but the understanding that kindness, no matter how small, had the power to change everything. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you won't miss any of our latest videos. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. Thank you all for taking the time to watch, and see you in the next video.